everybody, and welcome to WNY Athletics Section 6 Football Schedule Release Party. I am your host, Frank Wolf of WNYathletics.com. I'm going to be joined today by Kenny Stolt, the Section 6 Football Chairman. Tom Prince from WNY Athletics will have a few things to say. We'll have Tom Langworthy from Jamestown is going to be joining us a little bit later, along with Ty Harper from CSP, and we're going to talk to Jason Manziel from Lancaster as well. He's due to come on the program as we unveil the 2020 fall schedule for Section 6 football. And it's got a lot of surprises in it for you and for me and for all of us great football fans. Before we get to our first guest, Kenny Stoll, I do want to send out a huge how you doing to Mr. Dick Gallagher. I know that he's had some battles as of late. Trying to get his health back. He did have a minor setback, I was told not too long ago. So our thoughts and prayers are always with Mr. Gallagher. Got a nice letter from him recently that maybe I'll share next time around with you. But we're always thinking about Dick Gallagher and everything he does for high school football. So, Dick, if you're watching this show, we're thinking about you, and you're one of the best. So hope to see you on the sidelines coming up this fall. So without further ado, though, we are going to start talking about the season. And one of my first guests today is the chairman for Section 6 football, Mr. Ken Stoll, who's also an assistant coach out there at Akron. I believe, Ken, are you still going to be on the sideline for Akron this coming fall?
I certainly hope to be.
Okay. Well, you guys had a really good season going last year until you ran into some trouble with Wilson, maybe some injuries, but before that, it was looking real promising.
Yeah, things were going great, and injuries are part of the game, and unfortunately, we got hit with that bug pretty hard. But we're looking forward to this year. We have a lot of kids coming back, so it was an exciting year last year, and we're hoping for better things this year.
You got the schedule done, and I know you were up a lot of nights trying to put that together. It's never easy. I know from talking to you the last few years that you really pull your hair out, but you got a lot more than I do, so you got plenty left. But I know you pull your hair out trying to put that together, trying to make everyone happy, and at the end of the day, you got what looks to be a pretty impressive schedule here for 2020.
Well, you know what? We do our best as a committee, and you're right. It takes a lot of time, and I mean, going back and the little things about trying to, who had 3 games home last year as opposed to 4, and trying to make sure that we match up and get the opposite for teams, and, trying to make sure that somebody's not going to the same school 2 years in a row, and, trying to make sure that somebody doesn't have 3 games in a row on the road or at home, and as hard as we try, there's no perfect formula, and every year we seem to have 1 or 2 schools that end up with one of those situations, just because teams are changing divisions, and it doesn't stay the same from year to year. So, each year we face a lot of challenges, but you know what, the coaches and the directors are great. They understand. We all work through this, and it takes 2 or 3 drafts to get this thing going, but, at the end of the day, we play football and we settle it on the field.
You got some realignments going on this year. A couple of teams from AA moving down to A to B, B to C, and you got one big team down in D that's won 2 state titles going to be moving up to C. Why don't you shore that up for us and any changes that we have to look forward to?
Yeah, there's a few every year, and this year there was actually a pretty big change as a result of the state changing the classifications. But, when we start in AA, we have Jamestown and Lockport that both dropped down to Class A, and Will North moved up to Class AA, and they're actually a AA by 1 player. So, that was a pretty close move for them. But that AA class is going to have 8 schools playing a 7-week season. The bad news is that means that there's 1 team in their division that they don't play, but the good news is that all of them make the playoffs, so that's not going to knock anybody out of the playoffs. But, it's just a blind draw, and as it turns out, we have Bennett and Lancaster that won't meet. Orchard Park and Hutch Tech are not playing. Clarence and Will North, and Niagara Falls and Frontier. So those games, as of right now, will not happen in the regular season. But, we're hoping with a possible May vote at the state that, we're holding out hope that it would get approved for a waiver for an 11th game, which we can talk about a little bit later, that might free us up for another week of regular season play, in which case those games would all happen. So we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But in Class A, we have 16 schools. All right, so we're going to have two divisions. Will North, as I mentioned, moved up to Double A, and Lockport and Jamestown moved down to Class A, and West Seneca East moved down to Class B. The Class A division is in a similar situation where they are not going to be playing one team in each of their divisions. In Class A1, Jamestown, West Seneca West won't be playing. Lockport and Kenmore West, Niagara Wheatfield and Hamburg, and the last game would be McKinley and Grand Island. And over in A2, Sweet Home and Kenmore East, North Tonawanda and Williamsville East, Star Point, South Park, and Amherst and Will South. So again, hopefully, we get a positive vote in May, and we can play those games in what would be a week one. Going to Class B, we're down to 14 schools, and Class B used to be our largest class, but we're down to two divisions now, and we have West Seneca that moved down to Class B from A, but we had a lot of movement from Class B schools down to Class C. Springville, Lackawanna, Tonawanda, Alden, Newfane, Eden, all moved down to Class C. So now Class C is going to be our biggest class at the end of the day. Portville and Silver Creek were Class C schools last year that moved down to D, but with all those schools that I mentioned coming down to Class C, and CSP is in a unique situation after winning 2 state championships as a combined school. The section combining school committee has moved them up to Class C this year. So we are going to end up with 18 schools in Class C, and we will be using a 3-division format. And that's going to leave us with 6 schools in Class D, with CSP moving up and Silver Creek and Portville moving down. So they will join Salamanca and Cat Little Valley and Franklinville, along with Randolph, to make up Class D. And then Maple Grove and Frewsburg will again play 8-man football. And Roy Hart looks like they're going to be combining with Barker and possibly Lindenville, and they will also be our third 8-man team. And each one of those schools will be playing in the Section 5 league.
Was there any talk, Kenny, of maybe one of those that you're privy to, that maybe one of those Monsignor Martin teams that struggled to field team last year may move to 8-man at all? Did you hear any talk like that? I didn't. I'm just wondering if you had heard anything like that.
No, not from Monsignor Martin. No, I haven't heard about any of them playing any 8-man.
It is interesting to note again that the season does start on Thursday, September 10th. So if the state rules that you can have that 11th week, would that then be that first week of September?
Correct. It would be that weekend of 9/4. We're able to do that because of the vote last year with the practice requirements. In the past, football always needed a 15-day practice requirement for teams. That is now down to 10. So that rule has changed. So a school now needs 10 team practices, and an individual needs 10 team practices, and they can represent their school in either a scrimmage or a game. So technically, when we start on August 24th, they could be ready to play there by September 4th. And, right now that's penciled in as the traditional scrimmage week, that schools get together and they'll probably have their scrimmage on that Saturday the 5th. But if this vote were to pass and they put it up for this year, for the 2020 season, that would allow us the flexibility to play games that weekend. And most coaches, I know, the train of thought in the past was, boy, you couldn't get a team ready to play in 10 days. But the scope of football has really changed if you think about it in the last 10 years. With all the 7-on-7 tournaments that are taking place now, and all the camps and clinics that are going on in the off season, everybody's participating in those. In the past, you go back 10, 15 years and coaches really couldn't be with their kids that much in the off season. Now, if you're not, you're going to be behind. And at this point, most coaches, if you talk to them, they're ready to go, because nobody's putting their offense in on day one anymore. They've been doing it all through 7-on-7s and so forth. People are ready to go. They want to come in. They want to get the gear on. get their required practices in, get some contact in, and play. So that's where people are looking at right now. So it's a possibility, and we'll see where we end up in a couple of months.
And just to back up a little bit, if they do decide to give you that 11th week, are you saying, I believe you alluded to this earlier, that Bennett would end up meeting Lancaster in week 1 by default? Or can
Correct.
those... Okay,
Correct.
so those teams wouldn't be able to schedule another non-league game.
Right.
They'd have to...
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
In class AA and A, those teams that I mentioned that they weren't playing, they would play in week 1.
Okay.
Okay. We might have to flip-flop a home and away site there to try and make sure that everybody got 4 home games and 4 away games. But again, this would be a unique year to say the least if this passed. And we're going to have to approach it week by week and see where we go. But yeah, it would be really exciting to get that extra game. And just so you know, that extra game isn't a waiver so everybody can play 11 games. What this waiver would do is allow those teams that made it to the sectional finals an opportunity to play an 11th game. Because right now you can only play 10 games, including your sectional final. So that means if we're going to play a 7-week regular season, we have 3 weeks of playoffs, a quarter, a semi, and a final. So if we get the waiver for that 11th game for teams playing in the finals, that means we could back up or add a week of regular season play. So everybody could play 8 regular season games. And if they played a quarterfinal and a semifinal, they're up to 10 games. And if they lose, it doesn't matter because they've maxed out at 10. And if they win, they would have the waiver to play the 11th. Okay. So it's not just guaranteeing that everybody gets an 11th game.
Thank you for clearing that one up. So we've talked about alignments. We're getting into that rivalry talk now. We didn't lose any rivalries. It didn't look like that to be the case, anyways. Why don't you speak up on how the rivalries will have a little more emphasis this season and going forward?
Yeah, the rivals are going to be an interesting topic because for the last few years, we've toyed around with the idea of trying to move some of these rival games because everybody plays week 7. It's tough for the average fan in Western New York that wants to go and, they want to see the TNT game, but they want to see Lancaster and Depew, and, they're all on the same week, and they can't get to these games. And this year, our hand was kind of forced because of Class B, actually, because we only have 2 divisions. We have 7 teams in each division. With this 7-week season, that means I must have 1 team play a non-league game every week. And so when we get to week 7, for instance, in Class B2, I have Depew, Albion, Dunkirk, and Maryville. There's 4 teams in that division alone that have a traditional week 7 rival game. They can't all do it. They just mathematically, there's no way we can do that. So we had to move some of those rival games, and we're hoping that this could be a really good thing, a positive thing, because the media can actually give more coverage to these games in different weeks as opposed to having each one of them playing week 7.
That's a good point. That's a real good point. And then just getting into the schedule, getting that finalized, and going through all the details, and you made some changes. We received a schedule a couple of weeks ago that was kind of a rough draft, and again, today there were some more changes. So was it just a lot more sleepless nights and that sort of thing for you?
Yeah, it's just sometimes it's just a waiting game too, because we actually needed a lot of Monsignor Martin help this year with their smaller schools. Or else we were going to have some mismatches. We were going to have more D's playing B's and things like that than we wanted to. And, we were able to use Monsignor Martin. They were very flexible with us. And, Joe Licata and Matt Art of St. Mary's, those guys were great to work with. And, some of our bigger schools have stepped up to and wanted to play the Canisius and the St. Francis. So, and honestly, these are games that I think, Western New York fans want to see too. Our goal obviously is to take care of Section 6 schools, and we're all member schools, and that's what we need to focus. But beyond that scope, we have to be fans of football, and we know that, this game has taken some hits in the last few years, and we got to start doing some things for fans to make it, to self-promote, so to speak. And, I know a lot of people want to see the Catholic public games. So, anything we can do to promote our sport, I see as a positive. And this year, I think we have a lot of public Monsignor Martin games, and I think it'll be a good thing.
Ken, I wanted to ask you about the postseason for 2020. When will that start to? When is that first game scheduled for? The first weekend of games, and I got to believe that's going to be at New Era Field again. But then the Far West Regionals involving Section 5 will be hosting this year. You will be, I should say. I'm
Yes.
hearing that could be at Clarence again, or is that going to be somewhere else?
It's a possibility right now. We've just tried to, we wanted to get through this schedule piece first, and that's one of the next things that we'll attack. With so many nice turf fields in the area now, we have a few different options to look at. But it comes down to, there's a few things. Everybody's got the turf field and the lights now, but we need places that have a good press box. We need places that have parking. But we haven't made a decision yet as to where we will have the regionals. But it is our year to host, so we'll be in Section 6 someplace.
Do they have actual dates, though, for when the Far West Regionals, and then when we'll be moving on to Cicero, North Syracuse, and then on to the Dome?
Yes, I believe our regionals week, the last week of the season is like the 23rd, 24th. So the first week of playoffs, the quarterfinals will be that weekend of the first, second, what have you. And then the 8th, 9th will be the second week. And around the 14th is going to be the New Era games. But probably the week before Easter will be the regional finals. The semifinals will now be over Easter break, which was historically the state championships.
Thanksgiving.
And the state championship this year will actually be, I believe it's December 4th.
Okay. Thanksgiving
weekend. No, it'll be the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Thanksgiving will actually be the semifinals.
Okay. Okay. Is that Cicero, North Syracuse, or is that going to be down? Is that going to be somewhere down around Binghamton?
The semifinals will be in Cicero, North Syracuse.
Okay, Cicero, North Syracuse. Yep. That's a nice place to have.
Yeah, it's
great
really
venue.
A beautiful venue. Yep.
Can we get something like that in Western New York? What do we got to do? How much fundraising?
Boy, I don't know. That's a lot of candy bars. But, I don't know. But, boy, it is a beautiful venue. If people haven't been there, it's worth the ride.
Yeah. Well, it's been a crazy ride for you, trying to put this schedule together and make everyone happy and things of that nature. And we still got a long way to go. How have you been holding up with all this crazy health scare that we have? And what have you been doing to kind of keep things in perspective?
Just going over this thing the best we can, and obviously with everything that we're dealing with in the public right now, this kind of gets put on the back burner, but we're hoping that in a time where everything is slow, this might be a little bit of fun for people to look at and kind of get their minds off of what's really happening out there now for a while.
I'm anxious to hear if they're going to keep the Kensington Lions Club game. I believe that's the second Wednesday of July. I could be wrong. Second or third Wednesday in July.
Yeah, I think that's usually towards the end of the month, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think that's usually towards the end of July, actually. But I have not heard yet, and I'm sure that, like everything else, it's just kind of being put on hold. And over the next month here, we'll find out what progress we're making, and where things will pick up.
All right. What else do you got, Kenny? You get anything else you want to get off your chest about the upcoming football season that we want to know about?
No, we just want to get it going. We just want to play.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for spending some time with us today to get this schedule out, and we'll have it up on the website in the morning for everyone to take a look at. If not late tonight, we'll get that off to our graphic arts guy and our website guru, Matt Todaro. Hopefully he'll have that up soon so everyone can go through it and just see who's where, when, and why, and how, and a lot of really great matchups. I'm looking forward to week 1 already with Canisius and Bennett, and then I believe it was week 4, Craig Krasanski, and he's going to take on St. Francis, is it?
Yeah. We're excited about that right out of the gates, and you're going to have Bennett and Canisius, and we're going to open the season on Thursday night. We got 2 games, so people can get a jump on opening Friday night. We got Lockport going to Hamburg and JFK going to Alden on that opening Thursday. And, week one is going to be a lot of fun because you got Canisius Bennett, Lakeshore's over at Eden for their rival game. Pioneer and Cheektowaga have had great games over the last couple of years. They're both opening in week one. Fredonia Southwestern. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of good football. Each week you can go through and take a look at some of these games. And week two, you got a Lancaster Orchard Park game already. And Frontier is going to open their new field with a game versus Williamsville North. I mean, you can go on each week and pick some out. But, yeah, you're right. Week four, Williamsville South is going to host St. Francis. The Dunkirk-Fredonia game, which is a huge rival game, which is traditionally a Week 7 game, is going to be in Week 4 this year, along with Pioneer Springville. So, you can see that in each week when you go through the schedule that you're going to have some key matchups going on, some good league games and some good rival contests that are non-league games, a lot of them. So it's going to be a good year.
All right, Kenny. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with WNY Athletics today, and we're looking forward to an exciting season. I'm sure we'll see you at that Kensington Lions Club game this July, and we'll have to go from there.